Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Evan at Wayback's Arcade. We're coming today with our weekly showcase game, numero 9. It's crazy, right? So this is our ninth game that we've done a showcase on, where we do a little bit of talking about the history of the game and a little bit of gameplay, so that when you come to Waybacks, you'll know what's up. And today we're talking about one of the best games ever. Like, this is on top, right? With like Miss Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers. I could be talking about none other than Frogger. Frogger came out in 1981, as before I was born, but I love it, right? And it was published by Sega Gremlin. It was actually developed by Konami. Sega was looking for games to put out. They wanted something other than like shoot 'em up, something horror that the ladies and the kids would enjoy. And so they came across Frogger, and they offered to pay Sega, or they offered to pay Konami $3,500 a day for 60 days to build a cabinet and put it out and test it and see how it does. And it blew it away. Like, people went nuts for Frogger. There was a bunch of home ports. Frogger was everywhere. How I found Frogger, right, was the Atari 2600 version. It was made, the cartridges were put out by Parker Brothers, the board game people. A lot of kooky stuff went on in the 80s, right? So Parker Brothers wound up selling like, it's crazy, like 4 million copies of the Atari 2600 version. And me and my brothers, we had one. And that's one of the games that we would just play over and over. It was an excellent port. And I was fortunate enough early in my arcade collecting to have found a Frogger cabinet. This was like, man, probably close to 10 years ago. This was one of the first ones I ever managed to buy and save up for. The cabinet was toast. It took a lot to get it back up. And come to find out, years on, doing research and stuff, because I haven't come across another Frogger for sale. I have two, maybe three friends that have Froggers, but they came in two flavors. So the Sega Gremlin Japanese cabinet, which is the one I'm fortunate enough to have and that we have here at Waybacks, is made out of a half-inch solid good plywood, right? It's a wood grain cabinet. It's got cool artwork. You got Frogger on the marquee, jumping with his suitcase, and like a tire treads coming down the marquee. Then it goes down the bezel, and then the control panel. Like, it's a really cool effect. So we have the Japanese cabinet. And then they had the American cabinet, which came in like 3/4 inch. It was just, I don't even know what that stuff was. Like, all 80s furniture was made out of it. It's basically compressed sawdust glued together. It's not a, like, maybe a chipboard or something. It's horrible, right? And that was the bulk of what we had here in North America. And most of them didn't survive. Like, once it spill a drink on it, they swell up and they just fall apart. So it takes a lot of work to get one of those kind of bulletproofed and back together. But they had the Atari versions. They had all tons of them. Like, I remember one of them that we had too. It was made by Coleco, and it was this little bitty plastic dude about this big, kind of shaped like an arcade cabinet. It was a tabletop version, and of course, this was bought before I was born from my older brothers. But we had the Frogger and the Donkey Kong and the Pac-Man, and it was like this basic LCD red lines. Like, it's pretty rough, but for its day, it was innovative and fun. So we had that, but the 2600, the Atari 2600 version, just it smoked it. There was no contest. If I remember right, the Coleco took something crazy like 6D batteries, and it lasted like maybe 30, 45 minutes if you were lucky. But you know, Frogger was just iconic for so long. Even today, you can still go on like Xbox Marketplace and download a copy of Frogger and play it. They had like re-releases in the PlayStation 1 era to where they turned him into a 3D kind of dude like Mario running around or like Crash Bandicoot or something. When I was a kid, they were getting reruns of Saturday Morning Supercade from CBS, right? And I think that came out in '83. But there was Frogger cartoons, there was Frogger cereal. Even here recently, there's Frogger's been in Wreck-It Ralph 1 and 2, and he was in Pixels. My favorite iteration, though, of Frogger in pop culture was in '98. They had an episode on Seinfeld called The Frogger. And in this episode, George and Jerry, they go to this pizza place that they went to as a kid because they heard it was closing down. And there was a Frogger machine there. And George is like, yeah, I remember that Frogger machine. I put the high score on it back when I was a kid, it was like 860,000 something or other. And he goes and looks at it, and the score is still there that he put on as a kid. And he's like, Jerry, I tell you, it was the perfect combination of pizza grease and perspiration. And isn't that the truth? That takes a bit of both. But anyway, he buys the Frogger, but then he finds out if I unplug it, the high score disappears. A lot of these older games, they didn't keep the scores after you turn them off. If you put a score up on Waybacks, chances are next time you come, it's not going to be there because we turn the machines off at night. But he hires a black market electrician to rig up the Frogger machine so it doesn't lose power because he bought the Frogger machine from the pizza guy. And so, like at the end of the episode, he's trying to get it across the street because it's running out of battery, and he literally plays Frogger with the Frogger cabinet. It's one of the best pieces of TV history ever. Love that show. If you get a chance, go check it out. Seinfeld, The Frogger. But without any further ado, we're going to go hit the game floor, give it a test run, hear that iconic music. God, every time I see Frogger or hear Frogger, I hear that theme song on stage one. So let's go do some gameplay and check it out. All right, guys, we're heading down our classic road to find Frogger. Today is actually Halloween, so we still got our decorations up. And, if you come in costume, you get 15% off today because we dig us some Halloween. But here she is, or here he is, in all his froggy goodness. Like I said, you got your tire mark coming all the way down. And so there's our Japanese cab. You can tell by the half-inch wood and the oversized coin door. You can see how many quarters this dude has taken over the years. But luckily, at Waybacks, you don't need any quarters. So we got our original 4-way Wicco joystick with our 4 frog directions. Just such a great game. And it is deceptive that it says Sega Gremlin, because Konami, in fact, did make this game. And they actually had lawsuits against Sega because Sega didn't want to release the rights, even though they didn't really have the rights. Anyway, long story short, this was Konami's breakout game, this first really big hit, and they wound up winning the lawsuit. So all the Froggers past '81, other than the arcade versions. I think all the arcade versions said Sega, but all the other Frogger iterations always say Konami. And I love how the frog feet back there glow in the black light. Of course, we got a glare, but it's a really cool effect when you're in the arcade. Let's set up POV and get us some gameplay. All right, guys, we'll start us a 1-player game. See how old we get. No buttons, only a joystick. You gotta avoid the traffic. Watch for diving turtles. Cross the logs to get to your home in the top corners. We got a frog fly, but I lost him. Maybe I can get this one. Nope. But you got 30 seconds to get home before your timer runs out. There was one gaming magazine, I forget what it said, but they said Frogger had more ways to die than any other game. You can get run over, you go off the screen, you fall in the water, you get eaten by an alligator. There's a million ways to die in Frogger. Oh, and I just did 2 of them. I'm no George Costanza. I'd say the first log is probably the hardest to get on, or the first home is the hardest to get on. Ooh, got him. And of course, each level gets a little harder as you go along. We got the female frog over there. And I waited too long. I'm usually better. I hadn't played Frogger in a minute. If you get the female frog, you can get 200 bonus points. Let's try one more. That was a pretty sad showing. The quicker you do it, you get bonus points for time saved. If you get a fly, you get bonus points. You got the fly there, so it's 200 extra. Female frog, we bring her home. We get 200. Yeah. That's one trick there. If you get on the left of the turtle, you can kind of hover there. Another female frog. See if we can get her home safely. They sped up on me. You gotta watch that. Sometimes the speed will change up on you. Got the female frog and the fly. That's a little better. And now you can see the traffic is drastically increased. Woo, barely made it. And then I got on a sinking turtle. I don't know how good I'll get. I think I only have 1 life left. And I fell off the turtle. You see the alligator coming. Those race cars will get you too. Alligators in the home. Oh, and I straight up jumped too quick. But I got 2nd place for the day. There is no putting the scores in on this one. But at least we scored. Got a daily score of 2. Not that impressive. 28,000. That's a far cry from Costanza's 860. But anyway, guys, such a great game. Definitely top 10 of all time classics to check out. So come down to Waybacks, give it a play. Let us know what you think. Let us know what the video you'd like to see next is. Like and subscribe to the channel. Help us get the word out about Louisiana's largest free play classic arcade, Wayback's Arcade.
I was unstoppable. Perfect combination of Mountain Dew and mozzarella. Just the right amount of grease on the joystick.